Unfortunate news coming out of the Disneyland Resort this morning. Last night, during the late showing of Fantasmic, the Maleficent Dragon caught fire and was destroyed. And I'm honestly having a hard time. I've been having a hard time reporting on this because the Maleficent Dragon is probably the single best, the single greatest show effect in the entire Disney resort. And she's gone. and it's difficult to say at this point whether or not we'll see her again or how long it'll be before we see her again. This video, provided by Theme Park Detective, shows the entire incident, and I should give everyone a heads up at this point. It's kind of traumatic, so if you can't watch it, I understand. Things start off okay. Murphy throws her fire on cue. Mickey steps up to hit her with the magic. But before he can get his shot off, you can see that her head starts to catch fire. And the show goes on for a few seconds, and then all hell breaks loose. The music stops, and then it's just all about the fire. And the fire starts to drip off her head and onto her body and onto the ground. And at one point, there's something of an explosion. It's not audible, but there's a large burst of flame erupts. Then a blast of fire as if it were show, similar to the fire that she breathes, and it shoots down onto the ground. Now, mind you, there were crew on the ground right at this point trying to put the fire out when that happened. Fortunately, per Disney, nobody was hurt. Everything was evacuated without any sort of incident, so that's good news. Even though that looked scary and traumatic, that everybody is okay. And the fire continued like this for at least another 15 minutes. The video stops that I've seen, this video from Theme Park Detective, it stops after that. But it could have been burning for quite a while. And it seemed to get, much worse at times. Like you could, as everybody's walking away, it's still engulfed in flames. Really, again, quite traumatic. And I have to say the aftermath, it isn't much better, I'm afraid. Crews worked all night on cleaning up the stage area, and by the next morning, you could see that they were still trying to get Murphy below stage. This footage is from Mondo at Five Fires, and you can see the top of the animatronic is still on stage. And yes, I mean that black mechanical-looking thing, and that is what's left of the Maleficent Dragon. I know it's. I keep saying this, it's really shocking, really traumatic. That would be the dragon's head underneath the blue and green tarps, and thankfully it's covered because despite this being an inanimate thing in reality, it still would be traumatizing, I think, to see that head exposed. Heck, even just doing this report right now, I've had a hard time putting this together. I'm having a hard time telling the story. It's not sitting well with me. I don't like having to do these kinds of reports. I like to keep things positive, but we got to report on this. I got to keep going. Every part of the Maleficent costume, quote unquote, was destroyed, it appears. Impossible to say to what extent the animatronic was damaged. I mean, it looks intact, but no doubt there's going to be flammable components that were destroyed as well, plastic and wires, etc. Then by 10 a.m. or so, the area was completely covered in scrim. No views available, and I expect it'll be like this for a while. We're not going to get to see that stage, unobscured for quite a while. As a matter of fact, it could be that they close the island for a little while too. Short term, not long term, but short term. And with that, where do we go from here? What's next for Fantasmic and the Maleficent Dragon? Obviously, all shows are canceled. There's not going to be a Fantasmic show for a little while. Once they get the stage cleaned up, and repaired to whatever extent they can, they get the whole, the trapdoor thing buttoned up and all that is done, and you can make it at least navigatable. People can go on the island. Then it's possible Disney could go to a B mode. A B mode is, common. We do this in a lot of shows. We've seen this in a lot of shows. The show, Fantasmic, goes on as usual. Every part of the show is, as it were, the floats and, all the production units. Everything goes on as scheduled, except for the Maleficent Dragon. Instead of an actual proper dragon, they would just project the dragon onto a mist screen, World of Color style. And this is something that they've had to do often in the past throughout the history of Fantasmic due to technical failures, mechanical failures. There's a reason that the Maleficent Dragon is nicknamed Murphy, as in Murphy's Law, as in the adage that states, whatever can go wrong will go wrong. They got off to a very rough start when Fantasmic first began its production. They had a very difficult time keeping Maleficent working, so they were often in some kind of B mode. And we'll talk more about that here in a second, but also in the short term, I would expect for Disney to suspend any sort of pyro, any sort of fire in any show, anywhere in any Disney park for the short term. That means World of Color, Festival of Fantasy Parade at Magic Kingdom, where the Maleficent Dragon also appears and where it too also recently had a fire issue. The castle turret fire blasts during the fireworks shows. Though I think we're still going to see actual fireworks, just we won't see those pyro effects at the castle. And then perhaps in the immediate short term, as in the next few days, we might just get projections only. They might just put a complete, stoppage of the fireworks show for a couple days. They're going to want to do a complete analysis for all these shows, any of those fire effects, to see if they can't identify any other points of failure to try to address those before they put that stuff on stage again, out of caution. Now, the bigger question, the more important question is long term. What's going to happen to Murphy? $10 million. That's an estimate that I heard. I don't remember where I heard it, but $10 million was an estimate that I heard as to what it cost to build just the Murphy part of that show. Now, I don't know if that was what it cost, decades ago when they first started the show, or if that's how much it would cost today to repair. Those are two very different numbers, mind you, but either one is a lot of money. $10 million is a lot of money, even if it's in modern dollars. Whether or not they do or how long it would take depends entirely on the scope of the damage. How much of Murphy was destroyed? Can it be repaired, or does she need to be built again from scratch? And not just the dragon, mind you, not just Murphy. The trapdoor from which Murphy rises, that's open the entire time Murphy's on stage. It stays open. It was open the entire time she was engulfed in flames and there was fire dripping down and everywhere. So obviously, whatever is below stage was at risk as well. And below stage are an array of mechanics and hardware and software. The server that controls the animatronic is stored right underneath Maleficent, the dragon, and was, again, exposed to all of that fire. That would have all been at risk as well, much like the situation that happened with the Small World flood. You can't recall that, 2 years ago? That flood occurred in the main control panels or whatever for the ride system for Small World. Now, of course, the Maleficent Dragon is far more complex than the Small World ride system, so I wouldn't expect it to be repaired in just a few months, as was the case with Small World. But considering all that, considering the potential scope of the damage, the very likely high cost of repair, and the fact that Disney is currently in, money-saving mode, they're in the process, they're in the midst of a project, an endeavor to cut $5.5 billion of costs. Certainly, they're not going to be interested, I would think, or they would look, they wouldn't look favorably on expediting a repair of the Maleficent Dragon, knowing it cost, I don't even know what the modern number would be if it isn't $10 million. So I just have to wonder how urgent Disney will be in replacing the Maleficent Dragon. Hopefully Disney, I'm sure they must know how important Fantasmic is as a show to the overall operation of the park. It's a key component of a day at Disneyland. I'm sure they realize how important Murphy is, the dragon, is to the Fantasmic Show. Really, is there a show without the Maleficent Dragon? Certainly, there are occasions, as we mentioned before, where they go into B mode and you get the projection on the screen. Certainly, everybody is probably fine with that happening from time to time. It's just part of the thing. It's like a windy day for fireworks. We're bummed that it happens, but it's part of the park experience. But if she's gone forever, if there's no return whatsoever, would we still have a show? Is there even a point in keeping the Fantasmic Show if there is no dragon? That's a question I'm asking you, actually. I don't have the answer to that question. I'm not sure. I suppose we probably could get used to it, but I wonder if it just wouldn't be the same. It just would not be the same without the dragon. And on that note, let us know, Freshbake, your thoughts on this whole situation. Let us know, what this. is it affecting you emotionally like it's affecting me? I'm really troubled by this, and I feel it's not so much that because I don't see the show all the time, but it's how it affects the guest, and it's just a loss. It's a loss for the park. It's a loss for guests, and it's an integral part of the Disneyland experience. And I feel bad for the things that what people aren't going to be getting for quite a while at Disneyland, and I worry I worry about it's man, this sucks. This really sucks. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, we'll go on obviously, but I just don't know how else to put it. Let us know you guys' thoughts, and then stay tuned for more from Fresh Bake. We'll be covering this closely and give you guys updates on what we learn as news develops on this. Certainly, there's going to be updates from Disney about its future and what their plans are, and we'll keep our ears to the ground. And until then, thanks for watching, everybody. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. Fresh Bake.